Hey, just wanted to do a quick review of Gladiator, which I watched last night for probably I don't know how many times I've seen Gladiator for, maybe it's the fourth or fifth time. Um, but essentially uh, it's a film that runs on multiple different levels. Um, I guess one of the first things to mainly pay attention to is the name of the director, Ridley Scott. Now, like, I don't know if you're looking at any of the sort of like drawings that I'm doing. Um, what I'm trying to indicate is that all uh, forms of like programming like this, so you've got religious texts and stuff, and basically what they do now is because people didn't want to listen to the Bible, people didn't want to listen to the Quran, people didn't want to listen to their religious texts. Um, they created other forms of methods of control. So Hollywood in itself it means holy woods, right? So what they think that they're doing with that is it's almost like you have a crucifix, right? Is usually a wooden cross, um, and they believe it's their way of fucking their people, um, using their holy wood. If you look at the name Ridley Scott, it's basically saying like you have Scotland Yard, right? If you look at like the origins of police, I believe that Scotland had the first ever police force. I don't know if this is history being written by the victors, but um, uh, so Ridley Scott, like police riddle, and what you have within this film is like you have a bunch of things. As a young person, what you do is you see it like I mean, it says here that it was Irish. However, I'm pretty sure last time I read this that it said that it was in Scotland. Early concepts of policing in Britain were based on ancient laws. Ordinance of 1233 required the appointment of watchmen. Now, like, I don't know if I've talked about, well, I wouldn't have talked about this before in these videos, but like, essentially what watchmen are or what police are is they don't protect the people. They want to fuck the people and they want to keep them in constraints. The same as religion. It is all there to control people. So when you have something such as a police force, like or a military, it protects the monarchy usually, who is appointed by the church. And monarchy is essentially somebody appointed by the church in order to because the church knows that they can manipulate that person. Especially when you look at like how monarchy live from the minute that they're born, they are put in front of they have media exposure, which, if you look at journalism and journalist creeds and stuff, it's all about spreading the word of God. It's not about giving an accurate depiction of any sort of injustice in society. A lot of that comes down to artists who aren't famous, really. So when you look at the lives of people in the monarchy, they are thrust in front of a limelight, so to speak, um, which is basically there to make them adhere to the word of God uh, as much as everybody else. And they think that if people follow their monarchy, then people will follow them. So they get them to adhere to all of these rules and regulations that are pushed onto them in every angle, by every angle. So you look at the name of the director, Ridley Scott, which is like it's like police poetry, basically, is a way of saying that that's what this guy is. So you look at Gladiator, and like when you're a young person, you think of it as somebody that is fighting against injustice. Now, a lot of this is what the church actually do to people. So I was reading a David Mitchell book. Well, like listen to an audio book. David Mitchell, I think his name's David Mitchell, the guy that used to be on Peep Show, and He was. They're talking about like various different kings over time who they like. What will happen is when a king or queen um, begins to not use the word of God and begins to have people like them because of who they are. Uh, if they don't get on with the church, or they try to take power away from the church will just use journalism, use media to spread rumors about them. I can't remember which king that David Mitchell was talking about, but basically saying that they slandered his name, and now to this day, like all of this shit that they said about him back then, people still believe now. I think that what it was, I think he directly said, I think they said that he was gay or a paedophile or something. Um, so like if you look at like what they do now, if you go and watch the film LA Confidential, at the start of the film, Russell Crowe again, Gladiator, is they go to someone's house and he's like he doesn't like that the guy's having an argument with his wife, and he says something to him like, if I ever have to come back here again, I'm going to have you in San Quentin on a paedophile charge. So like they don't try to hide these things through their control, that this is what they do. Now, if you look at like so essentially what Gladiator is he went against almost the rule, right? Because you think Marcus Aurelius didn't raise his child properly. So through Marcus Aurelius not raising his child, through basically what it basically seems like is he had too much to offer to the people, which meant his son didn't get raised. His son got raised by sort of, you could say, foreign entities, I guess, but good Persian politicians, and became something different. I think when you look at the actual story of Commodus, he was like the youngest military general at that time. So they put, and I think what happened was there was actually like it was one of the times where there was the lowest amount of conflict, I think, in Roman history. But what you have is like, so the line is supposed to be passed down, right? For whatever reason, they think that I guess back then, if you were like, if you were the son of somebody, you followed in their footsteps, right? So they trained somebody to be whatever, and that person passed on all their skills and knowledge to their child, right? But if you went against that, that was like sacrilege. So essentially, at the start of the film, Marcus Aurelius is trying to pass the torch, or is trying to say that Gladiator is going to rule the kingdom. I can't remember what's his name, Maximus Decimus Meridius, or whatever. So he said that, right. He said that no, the Commodus can't rule because of his failings as a father. So he's going to give it to uh, Maximus. And like when you look at that, you look at the son, then you look at Commodus then trying to get Maximus killed and killing his father, and you think that that's stuff that happens because it's almost like their way of saying that's what God does to you when you betray the word of God. So like often in these films, what will happen is, you watch these films like horror films, and you think it's all like fun, but what they're trying to portray is, oh, the loose girl that sleeps around at the house party, she gets killed. The black guy always dies first. Do you know what I mean? They put these characters into films where they basically they make it look appealing. What they make these people look appealing in their character traits, etc., which is programming, and which loads of people fall into that trap because it's what they're being programmed with. So they go, oh, these people are happy, right? And they paint them in loads of fucking makeup and whatever, and they make it look like they're getting loads of sex, etc. But then they murder all of those people, and usually the person who stays alive is like some meek woman. Do you know what I mean? So it's their way of saying like, oh, the moral of the story is don't be any of these things that look fun and make you happy. Be these people who it's always like the virgin, right? Because they want to protect not having sex before marriage, etc. That's how they think that people need to get controlled within the confines of their societies. Now, like just a little side note here, like obviously what they do with society is They make it so that you look at like for people like me or for people that I know of a sort of like my peers, I guess you would call them, a lot of people like my age and my sort of intellect, I guess, don't want to have kids. And what you have happen there is you have a bunch of you have people that are either submissive or stupid that breed. And that's because that's what they want. If you are more intelligent than the controlling regimes, they don't want you to breed. They know that you're going to pass your DNA on. They know that you're going to teach your children ways of combating um, their methods of control. What they want is so like you could take for example, so obviously the reason that I'm doing these things is because I don't have a lot of free time at the minute. I've had 4 jobs in the last 6 months. They're making it so that they're torturing me so much so like through hacking all of my information. They're following me around constantly. They're using reg plates to attempt to program insult me. They're using people walking past me like dressed that like it's basically being like a black mirror, right? So uh, getting ways that like they think that I wouldn't talk about what they're depicting of me because they think that it's going to be insulting things that I've done or things that I do because that fits into their way of control. And everybody that stays in their lane is either submissive to the point where they don't want to face any sort of torture or they are stupid to the thought with the thought process of what's going on isn't what's going on. So like with me, what they keep seeming to try to do is paint me as gay. So like red plates I could talk about yesterday were like there was a blue BMW that said buy tax, like B I tax, and what that is either saying bill tax, so police tax, or buy tax, as in like they seem to want to paint me as gay or bisexual. They seem to think that that is uh, a way of controlling women to not sleep with me, I guess. Another way that you could look at this is like medication for kids that have ADHD. So they say that attention deficit is basically a form of like jumping into things, right? So like if you will not listen to your teacher and you will talk back to them, it's a way of saying, how dare you talk back to this person that is teaching you something, right? Even though, like, quite obviously, the methods that we are forced into obeying stuff are just not right and they don't fit with so many people. You look at a rise of kids with ADHD, what that's saying is uh, people don't want to pay attention to the people that they're supposed to listen to. And another way that what they're basically saying is, at home, you're not punishing your children to the way that we want you to. So they're coming into our education systems. You look at school just as a general perception of what it is. It isn't to educate you with anything to make you more intelligent. It is to get you into jobs that they need people to do to keep their society going. A society that breeds people. Like you look at business, for example. The Tories are always saying, oh, we're getting people to go out and to start their own business, but they will destroy every medium sized business that ever tries to start up. They will allow, just the same as in France, they will allow small businesses and large businesses. The large businesses have been there forever. They're owned by all the people that run the societies that fund politicians so that they get their laws passed so that they can exist and so that they can keep making money off the poor. And they keep everybody else poor. So they keep a school system in place so that if you want to be independent, you'll go out and start a small business. As soon as you start to try to make that into a medium sized business, they'll cut you straight down or they'll buy you out. They'll make an offer and you'll go, no, I'm not going to make that offer, I'm doing absolutely fine. And then they'll go, oh, you're doing absolutely fine, are you? And then they will destroy your business. They will break your windows. They'll make it so that the people that are getting, let's say this is a kitchen catering industry, they will make it so that your suppliers won't go to you with decent produce, so that your food is in worse shape. Now, I know this from ways that they try to teach me into being a head chef for big businesses. They tried to say that what I should do is to slander other businesses, that I should give them bad reviews, that I should go out and destroy their property, that I should go and drink in those places, that I should antagonize their staff, etc., etc., etc. So what they basically try to do is, and so if you get to if you start to get to a medium size, they'll make an offer to buy you out, and if you don't allow yourself to be bought out, they will destroy your business. They'll put people in there. They'll use espionage. They'll put people into your business that are going to sabotage your business. Um, they will tell that they will use big businesses that are using certain suppliers to say they're going to go to another supplier. They won't pay their bill from huge orders and make it clear to them using sort of like linguistic code, sort of poetic ways of speaking, that it's because they're supplying somebody that they don't want to do well, um, that they want to have destroyed. So um, essentially, this is what the school system breeds: is either people that go to work for big businesses who are basically making money to go out and to murder other people. You look at the pharmaceutical industry; it is in its and the health organization. Um, what happens is when kids go out of their way to say, "No, my teacher's talking crap," or "this is fucking pointless," or "this is not what I want to do," they'll say that that child has ADHD. And if you go watch a load of stuff on ADHD, like it makes you sexually frivolous, etc., etc., they believe that like building a world where they get everybody within their church to say that being gay is a problem, right? That they know that by giving these drugs to children, that they're more than likely going to be sexually frivolous, so that with girls they're going to sleep around, and that men don't want that. And they're going to get the little church minions and police minions to go out and tell everybody that this is not what people want. Um, and it gets the men to just have fuck for fun and not care about where they're sticking their dick. Now, like, what you think is weird here is like, why would you care about putting like your finger in a pie? Why would anybody care about that? The only reason that you care about that is because people go out and they say, and they make it so that women don't want to sleep with you if you do that. So that's how they make it so that people care. And they, you look at the laws in other countries, people getting stoned to death by being gay and whatever. And then what happens is, I'm not going to mention any names and stuff, but like back in the day, I remember uh, saying these exact things to people that were heavily involved in the church, and they would go, oh, okay. And then they would tell people that I was gay because I was defending the rights of gay people to do whatever they wanted. Now, there's a whole catch-22 here where, um, what they try and make people believe is that for me to say, oh, well, why can't they do whatever they want? They then say to the stupid people that they're getting to help them run society, that means that he is gay. And more often than not, how that works is that a lot of men just are, they have those thoughts within them, right? So, like, they will fantasize, like, you can't watch, most porn that we watch is with a man and a woman, another man and another woman. It's another way they try to program sort of like sexuality. Um, so yeah, what they do is they go, oh, you're not abusing your child. You're not abusing your child sufficiently, and you're not getting them to not talk. So what we're going to do is we're going to get our teachers to give reports that they have an attention deficit disorder. Through that attention deficit disorder, they then go and basically take speed. What speed does is it makes your cock smaller. It breaks down muscle growth, and it makes people sexually frivolous. So like this ties into a whole load of stuff that, like, when I was reading some Salman Rushdie the other day, it's basically trash. And what it tried to do is it tried to paint this character as like a sort of sarcastic uh, person who didn't like the name of the character in itself was sort of like a way of saying that the character, or the writer at least, didn't like the World Health Organization. And when you look at it in a different level, I thought they're making this person out to be insanely bitchy, with sort of like feminine traits, and they're making it so that he doesn't like order and various organizations that the church and that the world, these globalist people use to control their populace. And that so if they paint somebody as gay, bisexual, whatever, and they give them these methods of combat almost, such as like sarcastic. What they do is they get uh, police officers, or they get these people that the Masons refer to as bulls. So if you go and watch The Sopranos, like there's a big bull thing, and if you look at like bullfighting, that somebody holds a red flag meaning a Spanish guy, so like a church Catholic, holds a red flag being something that they want, that they're saying it's going against our control, it's going against our control, and then they make the bull charge at the bit of red. The bull doesn't charge at the person holding the red flag. The bull never charges at the person holding the red flag, it charges at the red flag. So what they basically say is that it's their way of, like I said, with the stupid people or the submissive people, right? Like more often than not, when these people train their children like dogs and cats, like you would raise an animal. They rub their faces in piss and shit so that they take the piss in the appropriate litter tray. Do you know what I mean? So that they don't piss, and they even use this as sort of like programming in your head. So you go, oh, when it pisses on the floor, that's bad for people. When it takes the piss on the floor or around the house, that's bad for people. When it pisses in the litter tray, that's good, right? And this also ties into the whole thing of like it's pretty just I have two cats, but like it's fucked up what we do with pets. Do you know what I mean? You take their balls away, you stop them from breeding, you stop them like my cats right now, right? Like what they do is they get their biscuits out of the bowl and they bat the food around, like it's like that like cats that I had when I was a kid. They play with their mice. People always think that it's like a cruel thing for them to for them to play with their food or whatever, right? But that's not actually what they're doing. They're making sure that their food is dead before they bat it around. So they bat it around and play with it to make sure that it's dead, so it doesn't hurt them when they eat it. Um, and this is like bang on what they. So what my cats are doing is that they're playing with their food because there's some sort of like they're not hunting. They're not a wild animal, so they're not hunting. Do you know what I mean? So they're treating their food like it's trying to get away from them, when actually it's just biscuits in a bowl. So you think that like this is how they train their bulls to charge at red flags. Um, Now like when you look at like when you think I don't when you're a person that goes I don't need to be controlled. I'm absolutely fine. I don't need to be controlled. Again, they get these stupid people, or these police officers, which they're saying are bulls, or security guards that they're saying are bulls, and they get them to charge at you. Charges, police, also just physical attacks. Not for the police don't care if you're an abusive person, if you're a drug dealer. If you're a drug dealer, they're going to take money off the top of you. If you're a paedophile, they're going to use you to rape people's children that they don't like. If you are getting involved in violent crime, they're going to use you to use your violence against people that they want to be quietened down. So this is essentially what they say is the purpose of a bull. So anyway, like if you don't abuse your children into these, and again, school is not getting you to be a man. They tell you that being a man is charging at somebody and beating the shit out of an innocent person. You think that actually what a man is just finding ways to exist by themselves and not have to live off the land and not have to live off people. And you think like what they're doing with me, they've just slashed my benefits loads. They're making it so that I have to claim disability through all the types of psychological torture that they're using. they're saying that I have to claim disability. Now, I'm straight up telling my doctor, this is all happening. Do you know what I mean? So I'm going to my mental health doctor that the police have forced me to see, and I'm saying, this is all happening. And I know that this is happening. But they are obviously saying that it's me being mental, right? Because you can't say, they can't admit to the fact that if you're just a self-serving person, that you are going to be murdered by the police and by the church, and that that they don't actually go after criminals, that they just go after people that try to stand on their own 2 feet. And you are perfectly able to stand on your own 2 feet. The thing is, right, what they make out is that to stand on your own 2 feet, you're fighting people. And what they do is they go, yeah, if you fight us, then we can surround you like a swarm of bees. But you're not fighting them. You're just existing, right? And you're saying, well, I don't need your forms of control because I'm perfectly aware of what makes me happy and what doesn't. I'm perfectly able to be a human being. So anyway, back to Gladiator, I guess. Like what they're doing with this film is that they're basically showing you that the taking everything from him, right, sells you into slavery. So they take everything from him, but because the normal rule of thumb hasn't been followed within their Roman ideologies. So the son kills the father and then tries to kill the person that's rising up. Not that's rising up, that's been placed because the father didn't do a good job of raising the child. So what they do is they try to kill or they do murder his wife and his child. Now, at the end, there is the whole fallacy of this whole like, you're going to go to heaven and you're going to meet your wife and child, which is bullshit. Like, people are sold the idea of heaven so that they conform. When people don't believe that there is a heaven, they don't conform. They sell the idea of DMT to people who they use these like poisons that trees developed against us, and they sell this whole falsehood just like they do with physics and quantum mechanics, and making us believe that there are other dimensions in which we are something that we're not in this realm in. It is a way of getting people who think that they're intelligent to follow in these lines that are essentially nothing more than just new religious texts. So when you have DMT or the spirit molecule, they make you think that you might be trapped in that trip, in that illusion forever when you die. Um, so that you will go out and conform to the people that say that they're acting on the word of God. Right? Much the same as the way that Maximus fights for his whole life, thinking that when he dies, he's going to have his wife and child. But actually, what's happening is they've sold him into slavery, which is the same as going to work, right? He goes to work and he battles for himself at first. Again, these are just religious texts programming. He battles for himself at first, and then people see how much of a good fighter he is. So all of a sudden he starts to lead, right? Like as if you rise up through the ranks in a job and you become a manager, right? In some crap job that nobody needs to do. So they make you think that you're like a leader of men by going in with the ethos of following these religious texts written by a fucking fed poet. Right? So like they make you think that this is what's happening, but what you're actually watching is somebody that's sold into slavery that then begins to lead a few slaves, uh, who then fights in an arena. Now, if you keep fighting and you keep fighting, you just become the things that they've said that you had a problem with. But what's happening is they're forcing you to fight. They're forcing you to fight. Now, like for me, I said this to my doctor yesterday. Now, I like boxing because it's quite fun, right? But I don't like sparring. But I've sparred a few times and it is quite fun. But you do get injuries. And for me, I never got concussed in boxing sparring or kickboxing sparring. I did have I had a hip injury. What I already had a back injury, and somebody kicked me pretty hard in the hip. And I did think, oh, that might have had something to do with my hip injury, but it was already at a point where I could barely, I've had a back injury since Egg Credit Card when I worked there when I was 21. So I think that that is more the fault of working in a warehouse and pulling shit off of pallets without the correct training. I mean, we weren't warehouse workers. We were supposed to be going through contracts of people that had taken out credit cards. So uh, when they were asking me to do warehouse work, I wasn't trained in doing warehouse work, so I shouldn't have been doing that. But they're going to say, "Oh no, he got it really bad." Well, like I was like it happened the year before with nothing to do with kickboxing when I did a lunge. I like that thing where you get down on one knee and it felt like a guitar string snapped to my back. Anyway, like my personal belief on like boxing sparring and stuff is that like whilst it might be if you're with the right person and they're not going to get overexcited and swing a right hook at your face, then you're not going to get concussions boxing sparring. But if you're with the wrong person, they're going to just hurt you. And like I said, with like red flags, balls, if they see that you look good at what you do, they will just put you with someone that's three times the size of you that's been boxing for 10 years to intentionally hurt you. Because they don't want people to look like if they learn these things that they will be able to combat if the police ever go for you. Um, So yeah, like, but what my point was is that if you hit somebody with your hand, like if I punch a brick wall enough times, my hand's going to break. If you get in fist fights, more often than not, what happens is you do get concussions, you do get injuries, you do get cuts, but you also break your hands. So you break the things that you use to fight. Now, one thing about like fighting with your head, what doesn't happen is when you fight with your head, you get sort of what's happening with me at the minute, where they're trying to use black mirrors in everything. So what they're trying to do is, and by the way, Black Mirror, Charlie Brooker is a police officer. He was involved in the origins of CEX Sex, the shop that fucks people that need to sell their goods to live, right? So they take money from you if you refuse to play into their systems. They take money from you and they put you in a situation where you have to rely on the church. And if you have to rely on the church for like food handouts, food parcels that I've been going for, they just give you sugar. Do you know what I mean? They just give you sugar and caffeine. They don't give you, which just makes you crave more food. Do you know what I mean? They just give you tinned fruit, sugary cereal, and bags of crisps, chocolate bars, and shit, tinned food. All of that just makes you crave more food. Um, so yeah, what happens is they stripped everything from him so that he had to go into slavery. So you could look at this in terms of what they're doing with me now. They're stripping me of everything, taking away my benefits, making it so that I have to tell people I'm disabled in order to take away the ability of eating, because I live in a one bed flat that's 4 stories up. How much veg how much veg do you think I can grow in a fucking one bedroom flat, right? So they take from you unless you go. So you look at Gladiator, they stripped everything from him and then they sold him into slavery. You could see every single job that you go into as some form of panopticon slash slavery. You're going somewhere to do something that you wouldn't ever do if you weren't being forced into doing it because you need to eat. And what they then do is that by fighting these imaginary forces, you have to fight to actually become the forces. So what happens with Maximus is it gets to the point where the crowd want him more than the emperor. Ergo, through by murdering other innocent people, he's risen to the point where people want to listen to him. What happens at that point is a little bit convoluted, but like I don't know how you say that word, so I don't know why I used it. I think I hear Americans say it all the time, so I've said it Americanly. But like it's cloudy what happens there because he basically he he shows mercy to the guy in all the armor, right? They do that thing where I can't remember if they drug his food or not, but like they get him to go fight that guy who's like the supposed to be the best gladiator of Rome, and they give him tons of armor, face armor, head like a police officer, right? Like they give him body armor, they give him armor all over his face, they give him and they give Maximus nothing but like a one sword, and then they try to, and then they get like tigers, a representation of like women, right? So like they get these like fierce women to also attack him, to try to kill him, and then he kills the man covered in armor or the police, military, whatever you want to see that as, right? And he's managed to he kills the tiger as well, right? He stabs the tiger when it dives on top of him. And as the tiger is on top of him, that's actually when he kills the cop by it kills the armored best warrior by stabbing an axe into his foot, rolling out the way and then stabbing him. But then shows him mercy. Now, like what that shows is that you can get a whole crowd full of people to respect mercy and to cheer and they then cheer and call him Maximus the Merciful because he didn't murder the police officer, right? Now, what you could think is that off um, off being that strong that you can look at this in so many different ways. You could say he didn't murder the police officer, he didn't blah blah blah, but he just beat him and spared his life. Now you could, but what I'm looking at it as is that he got forced into slavery and forced into killing other innocent people to survive. Now that's what they say work is, right? Now, like after this, he then gets into a battle with the with Commodus, right, which is oncoming. They have to replicate that battle where they think that they're going to kill Commodus, and he tells his true story. He says, "This is my actual name. They murdered so and so, and they, you know, and these are things that like men think like we're programmed as men to have children. More often than not, the children that men raise, men that get into marriage, you're raising. If you're not a police officer, you're raising a police officer's child. You're raising someone in the church's child. That kid's not yours, right?" They tried to tell me this like 15 years ago. Police aren't really allowed to have families because of all the criminals that go for them. So what they do is they hide their children within servant dogs, right? So they get these stupid people and they get these people that follow in their orders and they impregnate those women to have their children and they then have these like dog men raise them. But it's naturally just the same as you acclimatize to a cat's meow. You see a baby and it's programmed in human beings to want to raise that child. Um, so what happens is, as a man, you naturally think that you see these things on screen, like, oh, he's doing this for his wife and child, and you see his speech, and he says, "Father to a murdered son and husband to a murdered wife, and I shall have my vengeance." These are words that resonate within you. You know, like I have tryptophobia. It's a fear of holes. They say that what that comes from is that either at some point you died from a disease or you died from like bees stinging you to death. Because what I see when I see those patterns that look like beehive holes or like the holes of like diseased people, it makes me like cringe and makes my head not be able to take it. So we have these things in great, but I've never been stung to death by bees, and I've never had a disease that's made me close to death. So like I don't have this is like memory in my DNA, right? Just the same as having a child and the mother of your child to raise that child, having them taken from you is strong imagery even if you've never had a child as a man. You naturally want to, you think, oh, they're such strong words, but actually, like, they're strong words because it's resonating in your DNA. Um, and it's talking to something that you more than likely as a man in the UK or in any society, your child is more than likely some religious zealot, some religious extremist child. The statistics of children that do not belong to the person that has to the father's certificate is like crazy. It's something like 80% of children are not related to their father. So um, you have this imagery of this person who, and basically, again, is programming you to, like a black mirror. It's making it so that you're forced to kill innocent people, which is the same thing that you're saying is the problem with your life, right? So like Maximus is saying, oh, father to a murdered son, husband to a murdered wife, but he's now going out and he's killing a load of innocent people who were children and who were husbands or do you know what I mean, potential whatever. So it's making it so that it's null and void when you use that as a reason, right? The same shit that they're doing with me. They get these like caricatures of me. They've been doing. It's mainly homeless people, or people that are getting money off the government for free, so that they're allowed to do whatever it is that they're doing that's illegal. They use them like I talked about with the homeless organisation, the homeless charity in Nottingham. I'm not going to say the name, so fuck it. Framework. So what they do is they actually like they use homeless addicts and they use people that have essentially escaped from whatever persecution was going on in their town for whatever bullshit they come across this town. That they use them through drugs, through allowing them to get high, to talk, and to take out their life story, and then they say we're going to. Then they threaten them with prison, or they say, look, we'll let you be an addict if you go and murder these people for us. So they keep trying to do shit like putting people in front of me, like uh, s- uh, where if I talk about it, it will seem like I'm insane. For an example, there was a guy then walking with two Asda carrier bags with a French stick poking out of it, walking out of a car park with his head shaved with like a French looking top on, right? And jeans covered in paint. That's because I've been drawing pictures and painting as my form of attack. They seem to think that because I want to go to back to Marseille because like I'm just somebody that craves sunshine. Do you know what I mean? Like either I have half Italian blood or not, or even English people. We have so much Spanish, French, Italian DNA in us. Like we crave sunshine. Do you know what I mean? So like for me, when I'm in countries like this, I'm just happier. But what they're doing is they're getting these like weird fucking like uh, I think you would call them like, you know, these people that are like, oh, all these Muslims are keeping women in cages. Like, that's what Christianity does. What the fuck are you talking about? All these Muslims are raping women. Like, that's what Christianity does. And this isn't me being pro-Islam. This is me being fuck all religions. Which is what's happening with this is they're just getting every religion to try and bag on me. Like, do you know what I mean? What they're doing with stuff like that is that they're getting somebody to say, "Oh, I like taking, like, do you know what I mean? Like, oh, I want to be French and I want to be rebellious, and I'm just walking out of like a car park, like a small car park. Like, what they're saying is that I'm confined to this space." And this is what they do with like every single person that they put in front of me, or that they get to talk to me. And what they want me to do is, like, in terms of a Black Mirror, they want me to draw these things to take shots at these things that they're trying to say are me. So, like yesterday, that they seem to think that they're confining me to my room by making it so that every time I leave my house, I'm just surrounded by people that are attempting to torture me. And what they think is that by even though I'm going out like 2, 3 times a day, I'm just going about everything that I would usually do. They're trying to make out to people that I'm not doing things that I enjoy because they're forcing me into this situation, which is like crazy. So what they did the other day is I walked past this window that had a light on, and it was a kid sat in there with bandages covering his whole face apart from one of his eyes in the top bedroom. And I thought, do you know what I mean? They're trying to get me to draw that or talk about that. so that they can say, this is what we're doing to you. Because I'm talking about times like where 11 police officers beat the shit out of me after they put me in cuffs from walking from one bar to another. And what they're trying to do is they're trying to, because what they've been saying is, no, we haven't been following you since you were 3 years old. We've been following you since you were 17, right? Because I was spray painting graffiti somewhere, and and because I've been kicked out of my house, I was sleeping in the spare room of a house that had two drug dealers living in. So what they're doing is that they're making it so that they can say to people, no, we had reason to be following him because he was sleeping in like this little like shack room, um, and the house had two drug dealers in, and we arrested him. What they said, it was criminal damage and breaking and entering. It was just spray paint. Like I was taking photos of two people doing graffiti. That's all. In a warehouse that we had a warehouse party in the week before. The two people that were doing graffiti had just seen a big wall that they could spray paint on. So like us having to us going into an abandoned warehouse the first time, we just went into the same abandoned warehouse. Do you know what I mean? And the police that arrested us said that it was breaking and entering and criminal damage, which we just climbed in through a broken window. Like there wasn't any breaking and entering or criminal damage. As far as we were aware, it was a warehouse that wasn't owned by anybody. Another way that they do that is they try to make you think that if you go onto scenes such as like partying for free, if you don't pay to go to a pub to party, like they can't have you go to a pub or a nightclub to party. If you go to a pub or nightclub to party, what they're going to do is they're going to fill you full of alcohol, which is going to make you only talk about stupid shit. What's up? And they're going to pump music out that loud that you don't actually talk about anything that makes any sense. You are literally just going to talk shit about stuff that alcohol makes you talk about. So this is why they say that we can't play loud music when they know that it is ingrained in us to fiend for bass because it's the sound that we used to hear in our mother's womb. Like all the, when you watch like old films about like tribal stuff, like the loud music, what happens is they make it so that we can only use headphones, which deafens us. Or that if you play loud music in your flat, you're going to have people say, oh, my grandma lives next door to them and he's bullying my grandma by playing loud music. That's what they do. So that you then have to pay to go to a gig where basically everybody is just, you have a bunch of people that are like the people that run those businesses, they sell booze to people because they think it loosens your lips. So that you will out yourself as somebody that's against the church or against the forms of control. And then they know that it is more likely to get people involved in fights, and they know that it's more likely to make people sound stupid. And then they flood those places with drugs so that people will go, no, they're not talking any sense, they just take drugs. They're paranoid. He's paranoid about being gay, right? That's what they're saying. Like apparently these people have been telling people I've been gay since I've been a teenager and I've had sex with like over 200 women. So it didn't really stop anything until they literally started go. Any woman that I would sleep with, they would destroy her life if she wouldn't just start cheating on me. It got to the point where then I was just seeing police officers' daughters constantly, um, because they would obviously have been trained to take a piss in the right place and to intentionally destroy my life. So what they do is now what's happening with me. So like to talk about Gladiator in the terms of like destroying the innocent people. They're trying to get me to go for these people that aren't necessarily innocent, but that are other people that are living in this life. So a girl that they keep rubbing in my face, they keep rubbing two girls' names in my face, and I think that that's because those girls they know to be submissive for the church. And they keep rubbing these two guys' names in my face, and I think that that's because one of them they seem to trap up into their little paedophile ring at what's the church? It's at the joining section of Melton Road and Musters Road in West Bridgford. Um, and also there's another one which is just by the nursery. I can't remember what that church is called, but I could find the name. I'm sure I'll do it in another video. But like this guy got trapped up into that little paedophile ring because I believe it's because mum was a teacher. So whenever someone's like parent is, and what they did was they gave my mum a job in education and they gave her some sort of like medal from the monarchy, I think, so that they could say, no, he's one of us, right? They're trying to make it so that I'm speaking in the like I'm one of them, but I'm not. Because I keep talking about this and because I keep doing stuff like this, they've made it so that there's that, like if you look at all my followers on Twitter, they're all just names that are attempting to take shots at me. But like for me, even if the only people watching this are police officers, like you know what I mean? Fuck you, man. So what they're trying to do is they're trying to rub these two girls' faces in, names in my face that are just people that were like so inconsequential to my life. If they weren't rubbing them in my face, they'd be nothing. They'd be a girl I went to school with, and they'd be a girl that I worked with that I slept with for a couple of weeks. Right. So they keep rubbing them in my face. When I was in the car with one of them, when I met her, they surrounded us with cars all saying 444, which means new beginning, I think, or it means something to do with like romance, new beginnings, romance or something, birth. And it also means all the red plates were like 444 and like your new love, Titanic and shit. And I turned to her and I said, "You are seeing all of this, right?" And she said, "Just ignore it. Just ignore." Like she was about to have a breakdown. Um, and if you go and watch any documentary on like people that are um, say they're being targeted by um, what you watch any of these documentaries from people that say they're being the targeted individual community, this is exactly what they do. Target people with red plates, target people in this way. They just make it so that those people, they try to make them sound as utterly insane as possible. And because people attribute money to doing well in life, the stupid people and the bulls will go, he doesn't have money, that's the problem. He's hiding that he's being gay, that's the problem. When they know full well that they use prison conditions or they use drugs in order to make people switch up their sexuality and to be more frivolous in sex. They use shit like not having a father figure, right? So if you don't have a father figure and you're then being shown a woman as the person that raises you for your whole life, it's like an imprint on your head. They use prison where they take sex away from you for such a long time that then they put these feminine men in front of you and they get them to dress like a woman, and we see a dress instead of a t-shirt and jeans and we think that is woman. We see long hair and makeup and we think that is woman. Um, so they use these systems like they think that they're being clever. And essentially all it is just Black Mirror on top of Black Mirror. So they're just showing you like some over the top ridiculous, but like whatever you've said to combat their forms of control, they want to make some ridiculous caricature of it to make you stop combating that form of control, to make you not talk about that. If you look at conspiracies and everything that's in the news these days, it's all shit that's saying uh, ridiculous stuff. Like what we do when we attack the conspiracy, what we need to do is just go, no, the banking systems, the church, the police, they're scum, right? And they're going out of their way to control people, to murder people, to abuse anybody that just tries to live in their own lane. They're going out of their way to murder them, make it so they won't breed, make it so they don't have kids. They believe that there's this whole thing with DNA where if you have your first child, I think they're called like dead cells or something. I can't remember. That might be a Papa Roach song, but they believe that the first person to have a child with a woman, uh, that every child born after that will have the DNA of the first man because that DNA is then put into the woman. So what they think is if they get some like little church weasel or police officer to basically rape your wife or girlfriend, um, before, and most women are indoctrinated into this because they know that there's nothing that they can do about the rape. They see other women that are put in front of them. They know that there's nothing that they can do about it, and they know that if they tell the men, that they'll have their lives destroyed, they'll have their children destroyed. So they have these people have the first child, so that every child after that will always have an imprint of this police officer or church pedo that's had a child with this woman first. So that every other child after that will always have a will have the DNA of the first father. Um, so yeah, it's pretty fucked up. But like what they're doing with these Black Mirror things and what they're doing with these people. So I know that like these two guys that they keep trying to rub in front of my face. I know that one of them, that his mum was deeply involved in the church. Another one, his mum was a teacher, and he then became a church pedo. He started hanging out with this kid loads who had told me when I was about it would have been pre-year 8. He said that his priest had told him not to masturbate, and he said that it was okay. He because he showed him not how to not masturbate. He was then going to show him how to administer. He was then going to show him how to get a body massage that was going to make him orgasm. That he showed him a body massage that could make him orgasm. Right now, what they tried to do after this. So I told people this story. Right. So what they tried to do after that, they tried to make out that my nickname was Jordan. Right, which is something to do with this guy. So they tried to make out that my nickname was Jordan by saying that I am the best fighter that they've ever seen, combater of their methods of control. Now, they did this about 15 years after this, but I've obviously kept telling that story. Now, what they try to do with this and why they do stuff like that is they try to program some sort of positive connotation with that name for me referring to myself as that name in my head. Now, what that means is that if I refer to myself as Joe, if I tell that story, they can tell everybody that I'm being allegorical about what happened there. It's not allegory. That kid told me that his priest told him to stop. And the thing is, right, I've been to these little church meetings. They used to make, my mum and dad used to send me to these little church meetings every Sunday with that kid's family. I also went to the church as an adult in Snenton, where they basically got a 14-year-old girl to sit to the side of me and start rubbing her hand up my leg and up the inside of my thigh when we were supposed to be giving prayer. Right. What they do, I don't know if like what they do is they have these little fucking orgies, and they get kids to touch up old lonely men that they think, oh, they're going to, just the same as they do in prison or in situations where they get guys to be gay so they can tell women, no, you don't want to be with that person, they're gay. They get kids to touch you up in church. I never went back to that church after that, right? It's when you go up Snenton Dale, it's at the top of the hill there, and they got this girl to sit at the right of me, and she, I think she said she was like 14 or something. She started touching it. Basically, what happened was I walked past the church. They gave me like some. They said, "Oh, we're having here's some free snacks." They gave me like a cup of tea and a glass of squash or something, and said, "If you come back later on, we're going to be playing music, and we're trying to bring more like a young person's vibe into it." It's just a bunch of people sat in a circle touching each other up. And what I thought from that was like, so I don't need any more proof than that happening that this kid wasn't lying about that. And he would have been pre-year 8. And what they did was, because I kept telling that story, they kept trying. And I also told this story about, I watched Darren Brown the night before, but in school. And the next day, so what I did was, Darren Brown was talking about pickpocketing, how if you create a distraction and then you do something like fall into somebody with with the whole force of your body, that you can take something out of their pocket and they won't feel that small thing of, they won't feel you taking something out of their pocket, because you put pressure onto some other part of their body and they're already engaged in something, especially if it makes them emotionally like aware of that situation, right? So what I did with him as well was I orchestrated an argument between him and this girl so that I could take his watch off his wrist. I then gave him the watch back at the end of the day. Now, what they did with that was they tried to orchestrate this argument between me and this girl that I was never attracted to. And they then got these two guys that I'm talking about to both seemingly just sleep with her. Now, she is also a major part of the church. So, like, what they're trying to do is look the same as I talked about that girl that I was working with. They're trying to get it so that I fight for these girls that I don't want anything to do with. And they're trying to make it so that I appear gay if I don't want anything to do with these girls, right? Oh, he doesn't want anything to do with these women, he must be gay, right? Or otherwise, what my option is fighting for these girls who are so deeply embedded in this. Like, one of them has a daughter, so they're obviously using that as leverage on her for what they want for her life. And the other one is just a church nonsense kid. So, like, what they've basically done is like that through trying to like basically they've told everybody else that I'm in love with this girl that I'm not in love with. And then they've got these two guys that they're trying to position as antagonists to just sleep with her over and over again, right? Now, like, obviously, she's willing to do that because she's also a church pedo, right? So she wants this story. My name, unfortunately, means the omen. It means like Nico. It means like there's a load of stuff that they attribute to devil. So what they're trying to do is they're trying to paint me as a devil so that they can say, if you go into Satan, like, I just want to make this clear, fuck Satanism, fuck Christianity, fuck all religions. I don't give a fuck what my name is, right? I don't give a flying fuck what my name means. But these people are trying to picture it just the same as that Salman Rushdie thing. They're trying to make it so that even though I will pull over a cop car and go, what is your fucking problem? Why are you stalking and harassing me? Even though when I had an MP5 put to my head by SWAT police, I rinsed the fucking piss out of them. They're still trying to make out that I use sarcasm and I post videos about this. So that's a soft way of doing it. What they're trying to do, they're trying to make me force me into an act of aggression so that then they can arrest me or say that this is some sort of terrorist act. And apparently, this girl that's a part of this has been trying to get me to. She told one of my mum's friends told me that she was trying to get me sectioned. So this is a way of like all these people that they put in front of me. They want me to flip out and go, I'm going to attack this person, right? They want me to attack these people who are little church nonsense and essentially just victims. But when I saw one of the guys recently, he looked like he just shit his pants. So like they're just people who are also victims of this oppressive regime. These piece of shit police officers and church nonsense who torture the people in their society who can see through this. Anyone that can see through it, they say you're either going to be one of us or we're going to torture you. And when they torture them, they make it so that other women who they essentially breed to again follow in the lines, follow within the lines of their church, or to be submissive, um, or to be stupid. Whichever one, if they're submissive, they're going to go, yes, he's this and he's that, and blah blah blah. And if they're stupid, they're going to go, he must be that because somebody that I think that I've been programmed to think is a father figure, priest, police officer, authority figure, has told me that. Musician, TV film star, Holy Woods. So anyway, what they're trying to do is they're trying to get me to be the gladiator in this situation where they're trying to force me to go out and kill a bunch of other innocent people who have just merely been kittens that had their faces pushed into piss and shit, um, and forced to obey these oppressive regimes. Um, so this is what Gladiator is basically programming you to do. And at the end, they drug Maximus. They stab him in the back right pre-fight. So they string him up by chains and then they and then they stab him in the back so that he's already mortally wounded, so that he's already on his way to death from the way that he's been stabbed. And then they put him in the gladiator. So they put it in front of everybody, right? Um, so this is again what they've been doing to me. They've been creating websites about me. They've been sharing videos about and shaping what people think of me. They were getting women to like say that they couldn't orgasm if I didn't choke them or slap them. And then like 6 months later, I was getting guys talk to me like I was abusing women and shit. And then when I was like not registering and when I was going on along with what they were saying and then saying stuff that I just said then, they were acting like what the fuck is going on? And I don't know if that's because they've been shown videos of me like slapping a girl in bed or something who'd told me that she couldn't orgasm without being slapped and choked, or if they were so shocked that somebody would stand up and say, "No, this is what happened." Do you know what I mean? Again, try and tell everybody that this person abuses women. Try and get a woman to enrage him so much so that he shouts at her, and then somebody records it so they can go look at this person. He's calling his this girl that he says that he loves a slag. Again, the Jordan thing. I don't think I finished that off. They kept calling me Michael Jordan and Jordan so that I would attribute a positive connotation to that name, so that when I would say that person's name and what happened in those situations, they could that I would be that they could say that I was talking about me to a bunch of people that don't know the people that are in my society, so that they can try and paint it as allegory for me fighting for the church and for the police, which is absolutely not the fucking case. So anyway, so what they do is they put you on stage, they put you in an arena in front of a bunch of people, and they get you to try to go out and murder these other people. And when you've murdered those people, they then just have you in some fucking situation where you will go out and fight to the death for this image of going to heaven, which is not real. Do you know what I mean? There's nothing within that. So all in all, like what I'm saying to you is, it when you are put into a position like a gladiator, that there is something that all of us can do at this point, right? We can not go out and kill the other innocent people. And what we can do is we can just explain what's happening. So when you go out and you just say, this is what's going on here, this is fully what's happening. And when you're intellectual enough, when you use your brain as a weapon that much so that you go, this is what's going on. Um, this is what's happening. They have no combat to that. All they have is what they're doing with me, where they're just stopping everybody from watching what I'm doing. They're not allowing me to share stuff on social media. They're making every person that follows me, their name is just an insult towards me. But my own dad, this fucking piece of shit scumbag, is making jokes about how I've been cut off from society with this, because they think it's a joke that I refuse to join the side of a bunch of raping piece of shit people that go out of their way to physically assault people, drug people, rape children, force people into being indoctrinated into a line of servitude, give you no option but to use your intellect to kill other people for them. My own mother ratted on me, and my own dad rubs this shit in my face like it's funny. Because they've got a big house. They've got everything that they want because they're slaves. It's um it's disgusting. Everything to do with the society is utterly disgusting. And even if the only people that are watching this are Mark Officer Fed Fuck, or Matt Roid Fiend Fed Fuck, or other fucking police officers and intelligence officers, right? Or other little fucking church nonsense, I want you to know that I don't give a fuck about you threatening to kill me. I want you to know that I don't give a fuck if I'm only sticking my fucking fingers up at you. You fucking scumbag pieces of shit. So all in all, Gladiator is just a fucking Fed poem to make you think that you're fighting, but you're actually just falling into what they want you to do. But well acted, you know. Enjoyable when you're a kid. When you're an adult, much the same as everything else, you just go, this is ridiculous. It's ridiculous how easy they think that people are. But yeah, that's my review of Gladiator. Hope that you enjoyed it.